And new at 4, Louisiana Christian University in Pineville is headed to federal court with Lubbock Christian University in Lubbock, Texas, over its use of the acronym LCU. Louisiana Christian University is asking the federal court in Alexandria to make a determination if its use of the LCU acronym constitutes trademark infringement based on claims by Lubbock Christian University. The Pineville-based school is asking for a declaratory judgment in a complaint filed last month. Last December, Lubbock Christian University's president reached out to Louisiana Christian University's president, notifying him of the trademark protected property. The two presidents spoke on the phone over the course of a few months, with Lubbock Christian University even suggesting that the Pineville school go by LC instead, its former acronym up until 2021. And when they couldn't reach an agreement, Louisiana Christian University claims the president of the Lubbock-based school threatened to sue them last month. So Louisiana Christian University filed a complaint in federal court to get a judge to decide. Louisiana Christian University claims acronyms are common for higher ed, and each school's logos, mascots, and even athletics are different. They also claim a simple search of LCU brings up 17 instances of third-party usage. Lubbock Christian University must respond to the claims by August 31st.